So, as you all know, it is New Year's Eve tomorrow, end of another year, and so often it's the case, and I almost caught myself doing this today, coming here and just thinking of, all that we've achieved over the last year and what we have to do the next year. And I started saying, shut up, that's not how to live a life. Because that's not how you judge a year, by what you've done. And it's too often that I've noticed that people come and they get depressed because they don't think they've achieved what they should have achieved, or they get really up themselves because they think that they have done amazing stuff. And sometimes that people just always, there's more stuff to do, there's more stuff to achieve. And so really, is this the purpose and meaning of our life, to keep on doing things? Is that really what I'm trying to encourage people to do as Buddhists? Always people say that Buddhism is a peaceful religion, and it's a calm religion, and it's a happy religion. But does it mean you have to become enlightened and get everything all out of the way before you can be happy and peaceful? And of course you've heard that that is not how life works. I was in Malaysia recently, and people are very highly motivated amongst the Chinese community in Malaysia, which is the Buddhist community over there. Very highly motivated, and just incredible just work ethic, and they do really hard work, and they succeed a lot, and same in Singapore. But sometimes you just look at people and say, is that really what you're there for? Just to work so hard? And sometimes say, well, I've got to work hard, that's the only way we can be successful. And that is where that I was teaching over in Singapore and also in Malaysia a couple of weeks ago, that when I was young, I always thought that in order to be successful, in order to be happy, you had to be successful first of all. Only successful people can be happy. And then, of course, you learnt something else from psychology. People like the guy who wrote Emotional Intelligence, that if you think that you have to be successful before you be happy, you never get to happiness. And he was actually saying, Daniel Goleman, apparently he's coming here. I saw an avatar, he's coming to Australia or to Perth. Daniel Goleman, Emotional Intelligence. And then he was saying that no, you've got to be happy first. And once you're happy, then you will be successful. But instead, that I've figured out that both of those are wrong. It's the Buddhist path is something much more refined. That is, happiness is success. Are you happy with what you're doing right now? Are you happy here? And if you are happy with what you're doing, with who you are, then you are successful. And the wonderful thing is you don't need much to be happy. Saw that part of my job is to sign books. I write so many books, and that's a big problem for me. Because honestly, I was told this when I was a young Buddhist, a layman over in England, it must be about 50 years ago now, roughly about that time, and there was a Zen monk from Japan came to visit London. And in those days, I didn't mind any tradition, because there was hardly any Buddhists there at all. I was so desperate. Anyone who said they were Buddhist, I would go to their talk. You've got so much choice these days. Tibetan Buddhism, this type of Tibetan Buddhism, Thai Buddhism, Sri Lankan Buddhism, Western Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, what other Buddhism we got? Anyway, there's heaps and heaps of Buddhism around these days. But in those days, there was hardly anything. So I went to see this Zen monk, complete waste of time, because he couldn't speak any English, only Japanese, and they tried to translate it, but I don't think even the translator could speak that good Japanese. So anyway, a bit of a waste of time. At least I saw a monk. That was impressive. But he was for a 2-week tour. When he came back, by this time he'd actually learned some English, which I thought was impressive. And the way he used it was so articulate, because someone asked him the question, what do you think of Buddhism? in UK. And he replied, and this is verbatim. He didn't have much vocabulary, but he used it so powerfully. Buddhism in England. Books, 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 he said. Too many, too many, too many. Dustbin, dustbin, dustbin. And thereby, he answered the question so perfectly. Too many books, too many people in their heads, too many theories, but it hadn't really changed people. And then, now I found out, he also said, through the interpreter, he said that anyone who writes a book, the karmic result of writing a book is you spend your next 7 lifetimes as a donkey. I've written a lot of books. I've got many donkey lifetimes ahead of me. But I don't know if that's really true. But it was at one point that it was actually just focusing too much on learning, just like going to school, and on improving yourself, on developing yourself. And that I found out much later on. That's just another form of trying to be successful in life. Are you successful in your life? You look back upon your year, are you going to make sure that you get some blessing from a monk and then get more successful next year? You find it never works. Success is always, one step ahead of you. Like this lady once came up to me and said, she did it so beautifully. And this is actually the essence of this talk today, if we weren't going to give it an essence. She said, look, I'm in big trouble. I'm never really happy in my life. I'm never successful in life. I know I can do much better, but I can't just do it. And so she used her hands. She said, this is my left hand here. This is where I am right now, down here somewhere. And her right hand said, up here, this is where I know I should be. And my trouble is I can't just get up to where I know I should be. And that's my trouble. And of course the answer was so obvious. Look, if you want to get to where you want to be easy, then lower where you want to be. Lower it, lower it, lower it. Come on, keep on bringing it down until where you want to be is where you are. And then you'll be happy. Simple. So, do you want to be happy? Then just lower where you think you should be to where you actually are. Then, problem solved, you're enlightened, don't need to come here again. Have a happy life. You're happy wherever you are, whatever happens to you. Now that is a problem here. It's our expectations, what we want. Now, for years ago, when I told that story the first time, I just started teaching people, if you want to be happy in life, lower your expectations. So what do you want for next year? Whatever it is, lower, come on, lower, 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 lower. People come up to me and they just say, Ajahn Brahm, it's so lonely living by yourself. I want a partner in life, a really nice partner. It's so easy to find a partner in life. I don't know why people are just alone. All you need to do is to lower your expectations. And it's easy to find partners. To be successful, to be happy with your kids when they come home with their results from school. So easy. Lower your expectations of your kids. And if you can, kids, if you can get your parents to lower their expectations of what sort of grade you should get, then it's much easier to be happy. So I say things like that, and you know what happens? These talks, they go all over the place. I'm sure this actually originated from me because I saw this was actually coming from Harvard Business School. Somebody got that as well in Harvard. Someone listens to me over there. And they said that if you want to be successful in business, don't raise expectations, but lower expectations. Lower expectations to where you are, what can be achieved. Because something happens when you lower your expectations and you stop judging yourself so harshly, expecting so much of other people, expecting so much of yourself. When you lower expectations, you find that you have this wonderful sense of happiness, that you are good enough, that you are worthwhile, that you don't have to improve. Because when you realize you don't have to improve, when you are happy with who you are and the people you live with, when I'm happy with the monks I have to live with, and sometimes, honestly, Venerable Sunya, I look in my heart and say, crikey, can't I find better monks than this? All the people in the world. And I'm sure they think in their heart, can't we find a better teacher than this? There must be a better teacher who doesn't say the same old jokes again and again and again. But if I think like that, I find we'll always be so critical, fault-finding mind, no appreciation, and I'll never have any peace and happiness and contentment. So I'm happy with the monks I have. I lower my expectations. I'm happy with this Buddhist society. I lowered my expectations a long time ago, Madam Secretary. Now I'm at peace, I'm happy. And most importantly, I lower my expectations of myself. Sometimes I think, wow, a lot of people coming, this is online, I'm going to give a really good talk tonight. I'm really going to nail it. I'm really going to give this impressive, amazing talk, the best talk ever given since the time of the Buddha, and it's on YouTube. Buddha never had YouTube. And that is such a crazy thing. So instead, if I did that, you'd get so tense, you'd be so driven with desire and craving and wanting, that what would come out would be something really terrible. It would be totally against what we're teaching here, which is to be opening the door of your heart to yourself, as you are. And that, I keep going back to this, but it's a great story. Open the door of your heart to yourself as you are. Who told you you need to be improved? Someone did, and you believed it. That's a big problem in human beings. They always think there's something wrong with them. Not quite sure what. No one really tells you what's wrong with you, but I know there's something wrong with me somewhere. So, instead of thinking there's something wrong with you and getting this terrible negativity, thinking there's a fault somewhere and trying to fix it up all the time, you say, no, you become at peace with yourself, exactly as you are. And if you can, open the door of your heart to life and to you and to everything else. It's amazing, you're at peace with life. And then you have this wonderful realization, now I know what success is. Success is happiness. Not that happiness leads to success, or successful people are happy, but it changes the definition of what success is in life. If you're happy, well done. You've made it. You've arrived. You're happy. Well done. You are successful. So when you look at successful people in the world, who do you look at as successful people? Sometimes we look at rich people, famous people, people who drive in big cars, who have big houses. But is that really success? Is that really who you want to be? Because I looked at that when I was a young man. Somebody asked me just beforehand, they said, it's a bit personal, but please, why did you become a monk, Ajahn Brahm? Are you afraid of sex? Are you? Crazy question, sorry. No, I'm not in denial. I enjoyed myself when I was a young man. It's just I like this much better, being a monk. So, or was it, I wish it was the case, but it's not true. Was it because you had a love affair and she dumped you and I was so broken-hearted that I became a monk to forget? It'd be wonderful if that was the truth. It could be the case. It could be the case because I can't remember anything like that. So maybe I did forget it. But no, I didn't become a monk to forget. I became a monk because I enjoyed it. It was good fun. And I was not a loser. I had a great degree, great prospects in life, if you want to call it like that. But there was something that, was that the sort of success I wanted? In that university, I went to Cambridge, it was useful, not because, what you learned there, but the sort of people you associated with, because it was like Nobel Prize laureates you had dinner with. And these were a Nobel Prize laureate. They're supposed to be way up there in success, but if you ever go and meet them, I don't want to be like that. That was not what I wanted to achieve in life, because they were just really up themselves, and they weren't happy, they weren't peaceful, they weren't joyful people. And then you go and meet, there's one guy I know who was an earl. I know, wasn't an earl, he was a viscount. He's probably an earl now. A viscount. You think, wow, I mean, that must be really something. He was just a really pain in the butt. You wouldn't like to go out with him, or just meet him or do anything with him. No fun at all. And who else did you meet? Sometimes, now it's great being a monk, 'cause I meet all sorts of interesting people, like prime ministers and politicians. I remember, I don't know what it was, always bumping into John Howard. My impression of John Howard was that he owned Australia. I mean, he was just really thought, this was towards the end of his life as a PM. That was just the impression he gave me. I remember meeting Hun Sen, he's still the Prime Minister of Cambodia, and he was one guy you would not want to meet on a dark alley at night time. He was really frightening. So I meet all these interesting people, but I never ever wanted to be anything like those people. I remember one of my friends, he was a monk with me, and he said that he was born in, I think it was New Mexico, but he grew up in Los Angeles, so he knew all these movie stars. And I remember him telling me that he went over and, who was that fellow, Clint Eastwood. Apparently he knew Clint Eastwood, and he was, Clint Eastwood invited him to come to be a bouncer at one of the parties in Hollywood. When Clint Eastwood, he wasn't really, he was still making a name for himself, but he wasn't as famous as he is now. And so he was a bouncer at this big mansion in Hollywood with Clint Eastwood and all these other movie stars there. And he just happened to be going past the cloakroom of this big mansion where there was a thief. And he said he caught the thief and he grabbed hold of the thief and tried to push him out the door. And as he was pushing the thief out the door, he tripped. And as he tripped, it appeared to everyone he threw this thief out the door. And that would look so cool. It's just a total accident, he said. But all these film stars came up to him and said, that was really good, you're a really great bouncer. And he thought, this is my moment, the moment which you are born for and live for, that all these famous movie starlets were calling him just a really amazing, tough guy. And in front of Clint Eastwood. So he was a real dirty Harry, this guy, not the fake one. So he thought it was really, really good. But getting to know these people, said that's the last thing I'd ever want to be. He remember he spent an evening with Bob Dylan, he told me, and he says Bob Dylan saying, please don't ever get famous. It's really, I won't say the word he used, but he swore about being a famous person. So those are the sort of things. Is that really the meaning of life? Is that really success? And you ask anybody who's way up there and say, no, that's not success at all. They give anything to escape from that cage of so-called success and celebrity. But real success is happiness. So if you're happy, well done. You've made it. You really are successful. Big time. Much more so than if you're a millionaire. Already, that one person asked me, apparently there is another big lottery tomorrow, and they asked me, please, Ajahn Brahm, out of compassion, please some numbers. And sometimes, monks, monks do have powers. They can do things like that. But we won't do that. No way. If I could, I would not, on principle. Because that won't make you happy. And some people say, come on, Ajahn Brahm, let's try it, prove it. I want to be the test case for you. Give me the numbers, and then we'll prove it. No, it never does make you happy. So there's something else which makes one happy. And what makes one happy is not getting something you don't already have. It's appreciating that what you have is more than enough to be happy right now, with what you have. Right now, in this moment, instead of actually aspiring for things, letting go of aspiring for things and appreciating what you have. Quick saying, It exemplifies Buddhism in one sentence. It's when you want something more, you can't enjoy what you already have. It's a beautiful saying. When you want something more, you're not looking at what you already have and you can't really enjoy it. You can't appreciate it. So, the person you're living with, your partner, she may not be the most beautiful, he may not be the most hot, but he's good enough, for goodness sake. And if you really don't want anything more, it's amazing the joy and the contentment and the deep sense of happiness you can have together. Now, those moments when you're with one another and you think that I don't want to be anywhere else with anyone else except the person in my arms right now, just them, that's good enough. It's more than good enough. It starts with good enough, but what happens with good enough? It actually builds and builds and builds and builds to be, wow, actually I didn't really appreciate that when I'm content and happy with somebody, there's a beautiful sense of joy and ease and peace. It's called love. You don't love somebody because they're perfect. You love someone because they're not perfect. It's their imperfections make them lovable. Like I keep saying about the trees in the forest, the most beautiful trees in the forest are the crooked ones, with all the damage on their barks. That's the most beautiful ones. That's a wonderful simile about life, because the most beautiful part of life is not the perfect. It's when things go wrong. That is what makes things beautiful. Such as my favourite funerals were always when something went wrong. There's another funeral here. It's a nice little segue. For those of you who've been here a long time, Terry Story passed away. So we're having a funeral here for her on Wednesday at 1:15. She used to be the first caretaker in the house over there years and years ago. Terry Story. But I love it when funerals go all wrong. Like the one where it was an open funeral over in Fremantle. And when we put the box on the conveyor and the open funeral at Fremantle, they decided, because the fellow was into whitewater rafting, and it's my fault because I told him, you don't have to buy the box, from the funeral parlour. You can make your own. And if you know a bit of carpentry, you make your own little box up, and that's what they did. The only trouble was they've got to have the right size, obviously, but the box they made was with the jarrah, really thick hard wood, which looked really good, but it weighed a ton. And they were struggling actually to carry the box and put it on the conveyor, but they managed to do that with lots of people. But once it was on the conveyor, the motor struggled so much that it was chugging away, and as it was going through, it never actually made it all the way through before the door jammed on it, and it was stuck halfway through. Didn't actually go all the way. And this poor funeral director, he was almost the case to go in the next coffin. He almost died when things went wrong like that. But the wife, she comes here every now and again, Jenny. She's not here this evening. I saw her a couple of weeks ago she came here. The wife, young wife, just lost her husband, supposed to be grieving. What did she do? She jumped on top of the conveyor belt and started pushing. And everyone said, do you really want to get rid of him that badly? Trying to push him through. And the whole solemnity of the funeral totally disintegrated. One of his friends said, hey, just the first car he ever got after getting his license, he crashed that on the first day. First day in his coffin, he crashes his coffin. And a wonderful funeral. Because you know why? It was human. It was real. It wasn't sort of staged and like some sort of ritual which has got no heart to it. Life goes wrong. That's what life is. You go out and do something and you're late, or you do something stupid, and that's what makes life beautiful, the mistakes of life. And because of those mistakes of life, That's what makes that funeral just the most memorable, beautiful funeral. And everybody thought, wow, if funerals were like that, more people, even if they didn't know the person who was dead, would go. Because what it meant is humanity and people. You try and be perfect, and you get so stressed and so tight and so uptight and so much pain trying to be perfect all the time. Why can't you just be you? Why can't you realize that success, what you aspire to, that's not success at all. All those goals you make for yourself, that's what kills you. All those New Year resolutions, for goodness sake, scrap them all. Bucket lists, you might have cancer. The only thing you should have on your bucket list is no more buckets to put any lists in. Just actually to be much more real. Not trying to aspire to things, not trying to, where you are, trying to reach something much higher than you. You come down to where you are, who you are, and you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised that you're more than good enough. The crooked trees are the most beautiful. You don't need, for all those kids who are getting their results from the year 12s, half of those kids will be below average. And if that's your kid, you're below average. Half the kids have to be below average. There's nothing wrong with being below average. Half the people who come to this talk every Friday evening are below average intelligence. Half of them are below average. Of course you have to be. Because that's what average means. I mean, half must be below average, half above. If you had a hall full of Einsteins, half of those Einsteins will be below average intelligence. It doesn't mean anything, does it? We grade people, we give them these marks, and straight away half of them, because they're below average intelligence, they feel that they're losers. That they're hopeless, they're not going to achieve anything in life. For goodness sake, that's been proved again and again and again. Academic performance does not mean you're going to be successful. Wealth doesn't mean success. Being famous doesn't mean sort of happiness at all. That's not success at all. Success is happiness. So it's not who you are, but how you relate to yourself. It's not whether you succeed at the Year 12 exams or not. It's just when you get your marks, how you relate to those marks. What do you do with it? So, oh, this is who I am, fine, good enough. If you can be someone like that who makes peace with what comes along in life, instead of fighting it, instead of trying to make it different, if you're kind to yourself and to life, and if you're gentle, then you'll find it's the secret of happiness. You don't need to achieve, you just need to be. Just like often myself. Sometimes I look at my life, sitting here, answering people's questions. I got a few sort of emails saying, I hope you're enjoying the holiday season, having a bit of a break, Ajahn Brahm. Oh, come on, get real. When you're on holiday, that's when more people come and ask their questions of me because they've got free time, they're not at work. It's great when you guys are at work, you leave me alone. This is not a rest time for me, this is the busiest time of a monk's life. I'm not even a Christian, it's Christmas. So, it's supposed to be holiday time, but not for me. I'm working my butt off. I don't know actually why I get such a big butt. I've been working it off. But anyhow, should have a small nose as well, nose to grindstone and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, you work really hard. And sometimes I think, can't I just have a nice easy day? And then I think, Ajahn Brahm, that is the cause of suffering. Doesn't matter. People come and see you, enjoy it, it's good fun. And this is the reason why when people come and take photographs of me, That's the weirdest thing, and I still don't know why you take photographs of me. Even just beforehand, a number of people were out there. You saw them. I was just sitting there, just minding my own business. Can I take a photograph of you? It doesn't come out. Can I take another one of you? What do you want a photograph of me for? Just take one and Photoshop it. Share it around or something. Why do you keep... But, you know, instead of complaining about that and thinking, why are you doing that for, which I can't really understand, instead... with a beautiful, make fun with this, enjoy it, have a good time, smiling, and see how much you can smile. When people take a photograph of me, I always make sure, get my photograph. Just mess around and have fun with whatever you have to do. So that is how I realize how to be successful in life. It doesn't matter what you're doing, it's how you make what you make of what you have to do in life. That is the secret of happiness. So you have to do a funeral, enjoy it. Have some fun. Give a talk on a Friday night, have some fun. Sign a book. You know, those of you who've got the book sign, you know, just Ajahn Brahmavamso, that's just boring. So in the big A, he started putting smiley faces. Isn't there something weird, something strange, something original, just in order just to make it more happy, more fun. So whatever I tend to do, I realize that you can make fun out of anything in life. Go to the dentist. Where's my dentist? Jake's here today. He's over there. Can I... Oh, is that the back? Yeah. Walked out. Oh, great, I can tell this story. Shouldn't walk out during one of my talks. Yeah, okay, yeah. So you know what happened? I had a bad tooth some years ago. It actually split, so he went up there to, please don't call him in, don't call him in. Let I finish the talk. I had a bad tooth, so there's no other way. He had to take it out, because it was split or something, so he took it out. But you know what he did with it? You know, my dentist, he kept it, because you know, it might be a relic later on and be worth a lot of money. That would be his insurance, you know, for his like superannuation. Oh no, honestly, that I'm a very well-known monk now. Just when I was in Malaysia, it was my beanie. My beanie went for $4,000. Just my beanie I wear here. We auctioned it to raise funds for the Buddhist Dharma Fellowship in Kuala Lumpur. $4,000 for my beanie. Now, please, you know, don't take anything. My room is locked. I know there's like a few beanies in there, so you can't take anything. The worst one was when in Hong Kong, raising money for the nuns monastery, I think it was, my meditation cushion, this thing. You know how much this went for? 30,000 US. 30,000 US, my God. Keep your hands off it. That was my old one, that was the real one. I only sit on this. This is actually the first time I sat on this. It's probably not worth that much yet. No, for me you may think, that's ridiculous. What are you doing that for? That's stupid. But it was really good fun. People got a lot of happiness out of that. A lot of joy. Now that's actually how you find success. You put happiness in whatever you have to do. So when people said, oh, we're going to have an auction, oh yeah, you can take this, take that. What I really wanted to auction, you know, but people, the organisers weren't really into it. My toilet seat. Now honestly, I've been sitting on that toilet seat for over 30 years. Imagine just how holy that seat is. You sit on that, no constipation, no diarrhea, it will be all healed by the magical powers of a monk's butt having sat on that for so many years. But somehow or other they weren't into that. I don't know why, I can't understand. It was raising funds for a good cause and something, I don't care what it's for, but now you can see just what you have to do, signing books, auctioning your toilet seat or whatever. Now you can see just where we're coming from here. The idea is stupid, it doesn't make any sense, a ridiculous idea. You know, a cushion is not worth that much, but that's not the point. It's the energy in it, what you put in to what you have. Giving that little bit extra of fun, making something out of nothing. Something you can find fun and joy in. And I've been training myself to do that. You don't have to have a perfect tree to make it beautiful. You don't have to have an amazing gold-plated cushion to make it valuable. It's something else which you put into life. So even like meditation, just stop trying to meditate and become peaceful. When you're trying to become peaceful, you never make it. Just enjoy it. And you find you already are peaceful when you're not trying to be something. You find you are perfect when you're not trying to be different. You find what love is when you're not trying to love someone, and you can love them. It's all this trying to make things different. Trying to improve yourself, as I was saying earlier. What's wrong with you? Well, I can't see anything wrong with anybody, quite frankly. All the people who come to my meditation retreats trying to improve themselves, you're wasting your time. You're good enough already. You might as well leave and go home. If you could only realize that, you would need to meditate. To be at peace with yourself. Isn't that the real goal, the secret of happiness, to be at peace with yourself? And the amazing thing is, you can take that to amazing extremes. When you're really sick, you can be at peace with your sickness. There's a little book which I had to sign out there. It's the Happy Everyday book. People in Indonesia printed that. Some sayings of mine. Happy every day. And people asked me just during the talks I gave in Indonesia early this year, they said, how can you be happy every day? That's impossible. What happens when you just go through a divorce? Your kid has just got a cancer. Donald Trump has just been elected. How can you be happy every day? Poor old Donald Trump. But how can you be happy every day? And of course the answer is, when you actually look deeper, so easy. So you're miserable. Be happy that you're miserable. So you're sick. Be happy that you're sick. So you have some grief. Be happy that you have grief. It's part of the seasons of the emotional weather of the human mind. It's part of who you are. Be happy to be who you are, even if you've got a headache, even if you feel terrible this morning. It's your right to feel terrible. And I will protect that right. Bye-bye, clock. It's your right to be grumpy. That's why I made that first grumpy license for a person. Because for some reason or another, they thought that because they were Buddhists, they weren't allowed to be grumpy. Buddhists have always got to be happy. They've always got to be smiling. They've always got to be kind. They can't sort of say rotten things to people when they really feel they really want to sort of say some rotten things to that nasty bastard. Oops, what have I said? No. But you know what it's like sometimes if you have all these constraints on you, what you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be, and how you're supposed to speak. And if that's not who you are, that causes an amazing amount of stress. And there's one thing about me anyway, that I'm a public figure now, but as you see me, this is who I am. I don't act when I come on Friday night. A long time ago I thought, if you don't like this, fine, I can have a nice easy life. But this is precisely no acting at all. As you see is what you get, honestly. And because of that, it means that you can really relax and you can actually teach something really important. Not trying to be somebody different than who you are. Not trying to improve yourself. But to open the door of your heart to yourself precisely as you are. If you're grumpy, be grumpy. If you feel tired, be tired. If you're upset, be upset. Don't try and be something different. If you try to be something different, it always makes it much worse, and also you're not a human being anymore. So I love human beings. And human beings has always got some quirks to them, some eccentricities to them. And if you really know what love is, you love your partner, as they are. You've been through it, you try to change them for years, you can't change them. but you can change your attitude towards them and love them. And you know, have any of you ever really been loved by somebody? Really been so loved, you realize in this person's presence, you don't have to change at all. You're totally accepted for who you are, with all your faults, all your defilements, all of your negativities and grumpiness and sickness. You are totally loved for who you are. You don't have to improve. If you've ever felt that love from somebody, you don't have to improve at all. It's just so freeing and so peaceful. I got that from a little bit from my father, but not totally, from great monks you used to hang out with. I always thought when I became a monk you had to improve and get rid of your defilements and just become a perfect monk. Until you met these monks, say, no, you're good enough. And you were totally loved for who you are. The simile was that there are some people in this world with spikes, the invisible spike simile. There are some people with invisible spikes, actually most people have got invisible spikes coming out of them. So you can get close to them, but you get too close, you get scratched. You can't really get too close to a person, and you get hurt. You feel it, you feel really uncomfortable. Some people, their spikes are just so long, and they're just so sharp, they just come into a room, they just come to here, you feel really uncomfortable in their presence. Really long, sharp spike people. Really difficult people to be close to. Most people are average spikes. Yeah, you can say hello to each other, sit next to each other, have a cup of tea, but you get too close and you get sort of scratched. And there's some people who've got hardly any spikes at all. There's still spikes, you get too personal, too close, and you get hurt. But you will come across some people who've got no spikes at all. Come as close as you like, and you feel so safe. You don't get hurt at all. And those people, those are the enlightened ones. Total peace in their presence. Because in their presence you understand at long last that you don't need to improve to be loved. Don't you improve at all. As you are is more than good enough. Which is an amazing thing to appreciate. And because from that, when you realize that other people can love you precisely as you are, then of course the next step is you learn how to love yourself as you are. You don't need to improve. You are good enough. But people say, well, if I don't improve, it'll get worse, worse, worse. It doesn't. If you try to improve, that's when it gets worse. But if you learn how to love and be at peace with life, be at peace with yourself, understand the simile of the trees, then you find, wow, at last, I can relax. Don't be tense anymore. Be at peace and really understand what compassion means. Compassion to myself. And then you go to that next stage of compassion towards life. Compassion towards life with all its tears and its screams and its laughter and its joy all coming together in life. It's very easy to love the nice part of life. What about the difficult part of life? Can you love that as well? The disappointments of life, when things don't go exactly as you planned. For me, that is the juicy part of life. That is, you've heard me say it before, the dog shit of life. Without dog shit, there'll be no dogs. I like dogs. So you've got to have dog shit. And of course, it's not the fact there's dog shit on the street, it's what you do with it. Dog shit is the best fertilizer. And I always say that if ever you tread in the dog shit of life, someone dies. Disappointments. You get dumped by your boyfriend. You get terrible marks in year 12s. You're really in the dog shit now, baby. You're not going to get anywhere. No, great! The more dog shit, the more fertilizer for your mango trees. It's mango season now, lots of mangoes. And so I'm sure that many of those mangoes which I eat here were fertilized by the dog shit. And I always remember that. I always keep that in mind, because when I eat my mango, I remember what I'm really eating. The sweetness and the juice of the mango comes from the dog shit of life. And that's actually so beautiful, because any wisdom I have comes from suffering, from peace, from pain, any compassion, that's where it comes from. So whenever you do go through difficult times, remember that this is life. Welcome. This is the meaning of life. It's not just going to be just all petals and fragrance. We all have our dog shit to deal with. Wise people know what to do with it. They accept it, embrace it. They love it. They open the door of their heart to the difficulties and problems and disappointments of life. They take it in. They learn from it. They grow from it. And that's where the beautiful people come from in life. And you realize you don't have to avoid it, which means you're far more relaxed in your life. You don't need to always think that success is always nothing goes wrong in life. Life is this process which often goes wrong, which has these amazing sort of experiences. But unfortunately, that people just look at the terrible things which happen in life and get really upset. Oh, isn't it terrible? Isn't it bad? Look what happened. Oh, that's terrible. We should do something about this. Like, for example, the bushfires. Our present, this is a big thing with us down at Bodhinyana Monastery. We're trying to build some kutis, some huts for monks, but we can't do it because the government won't allow us to build any huts in the forest anymore unless we cut down every tree in 30-meter radius all around, because they're afraid that if we build the huts, there might be a bushfire and we might die. What's wrong with dying? We're monks, we get reincarnated, so big deal. But unfortunately, we live in a state where no one's really allowed to die. People aren't allowed to make mistakes. Someone makes a mistake and gets sued and put in jail. There's something terribly wrong there. Something inhuman, forcing. So for me, that sometimes it's wonderful if we can have a bit more acceptance and not be afraid of things like death and sickness. So we can live life instead of being afraid of life. So we can actually we get hurt, but we learn, we grow. And then we can find a much more beautiful happiness in this life. Happiness is not just things going right, but happiness is there all the time for us when we realize that when we want something more, we want to be safe, we are afraid. We're afraid of just being in this life, which sometimes we do get burnt, sometimes we do hurt, we do get bruised. It's just like children, trying to keep them from playing and keep them from getting colds and sicknesses. It's those colds and sickness and the dirt and the infections they get in early life which makes them more immune to the bigger infections later on in life. It's the bruises you get which make you resilient in your later years. It's the ability to take it and to understand it and learn from it and grow from it that allows us to transcend it. It's not avoiding suffering in life, but it's actually learning from it, growing from it. That's actually just our path, our spiritual path. Till we get to the point that we love life as it is. And all those things which we thought, that's a terrible, why does that thing happen? That's such a tragedy. It's not a tragedy. We look at it in a different way. This is how we learn and grow. It's part of life. Just like all the things about you, your partner, we learn to love and accept and make peace. We make peace, we're kind to life, we're gentle. And that's where life transforms. Often said here, and it's a powerful point, we are the creators of life. We make these things happen. We create life. And if we have a negative attitude towards life, fearful, always critical, always trying to improve too much. We are creating a world of such stress. It's a world where people actually start to believe that if you don't get in the top 10% at year 12s, you are already a failure in life. If you don't go to university, that you're a hopeless case. We're making failures of people. Failures of people when they're just such a young age. And many of you, because you may not be the top of your profession, might feel like a failure as well. There is no such thing as failures in life. Every tree in the forest belongs. Every human being belongs. Finds their place, is at peace with themselves. And when they find that peace with themselves, that's how to love themselves. And at last, just like I learnt that love from great enlightened monks, I didn't need to change. I was at peace. Then you can be at peace as well, as you totally are. No one trying to make you any different. So please, for your New Year's resolutions, no New Year's resolutions. You are good enough, your wife is good enough, your husband's good enough, and your finances are good enough. So you don't need any lottery numbers for tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Okay, here we go. Good enough, no fault-finding mind talk. Here we go, how we got here. From the United States. Is it dangerous to be too detached from life? How do you balance detachment with the duties of life? Can you let go too much? You let go and do your duties. Sometimes people think if you let go it means you don't do anything in life. No! You let go of controlling in life. I have to let go a lot to have my photograph taken. You got it? Yeah, thank you. So it's not that I love having my photograph taken. In fact, it's a bit of a bore. But nevertheless, I let go so I can engage. You don't let go to detach. You control and then you detach. Letting go is not calling the shots. So, if somebody comes up to you, you engage with them. If they leave, then you disengage. It is the controllers which actually want to move away. They're afraid, they don't want to talk to people, they don't have their photograph taken, they always think their hair's a bit wrong. I don't have that trouble. So you can never let go too much. And if you do let go properly, you do all your duties, you serve, because you're not a control freak. You just do what needs to be done, rather than what you think should be done. From Canada, is it possible an arahant can make genuine mistakes? For example, judge someone by mistake? Of course they can make mistakes, because human beings make mistakes. So can arahats too, enlightened beings. Enlightened beings is not this idea of being a perfect person. We have a weird idea of perfection. They never say the wrong thing, they never offend people, they never make... I've offended a lot of people. Ajahn Chah offended people and made mistakes. What was one of Ajahn Chah's mistakes? A nice mistake. Oh, I know that when there was an American Air Force base, and so somebody actually got him a hamburger. First time he'd ever seen a hamburger. Now, a Thai mug, about 40 years ago, 42 years ago. He didn't know what to do with it. So what do you do with a hamburger? So how do you eat it? And so one of the monks, being a bit naughty, said, you do this. And that's what Ajahn Chah did. He opened his mouth as wide as possible, put the hamburger in, and tried to close it, made a big mess of himself. And that was an enlightened monk. And that monk who did that, I don't know what karma he got, but it's very funny. So yet, of course they can make mistakes, but not out of a sense of self. And they would laugh at their mistakes afterwards. You can tell if it's like an enlightened person making a mistake, because if it's not an unenlightened person making mistakes, oh no, I didn't do that, no, that was me, that was somebody else. Because when there's no sense of self there, there's no pride, there's no sort of, what's the word, embarrassment. People make mistakes. It's just a wonderful thing in life to know that you're allowed to make mistakes. Has anyone here never made a mistake? We've all made mistakes. I asked that question years ago and somebody put their hand up and said, so my only mistake I've ever made in life was thinking what I did was a mistake. Arrogant. B-A-S-T-R-D. Human beings do make mistakes. And it's wonderful to know it's all right to make a mistake. In Buddhism, when you make a mistake, acknowledge it, admit it to yourself or somebody. Don't hide it, because that's where we learn. We forgive it, no punishment, it's normal, it's allowable, and then we learn from it. Acknowledge, forgive, learn, AFL, mistakes. What happens in our world, though, we don't even get to acknowledgement of mistakes. We're not allowed to make mistakes. Arahat's making, you're not allowed to make mistakes. At work, no, you've got to be perfect. In your relationship, you're not allowed to make mistakes. If you have a partner, you don't allow him or her to make mistakes, your relationship is dead. They will make mistakes, you make mistakes. So we allow each other to make mistakes. We forgive it straight away, and we learn from it, we grow from mistakes. And lastly, from the Netherlands, your home country. How do you get the mind to lower expectations and be content with what is? My mind always jumps straight to judging by default. Are you going to change the default mode? I know that software engineers always change the default mode on my computer when I want some other wallpaper on my little tablet. So change your wallpaper to forgiveness instead of judging. So you can, the default, if you hang around places like this and listen to these talks more often, then afterwards your default does change. So instead of judging, to forgiveness, to acceptance, to letting be, to allowing mistakes, to compassion. Compassion is a wide, open mind. Judging is a very narrow, closed mind. And it's all the judging in this world which causes all the problems and the violence. My religion is better than your one. You offended my religion, therefore I'm going to blow you up. It's all that judging business causes so much violence. It causes all those disharmony between human beings, so you can't find a partner to love and care for you, and so you don't know what love is and you can't give love. It's always judging. So, lower your expectations so you can love other people as they are, and so you can love yourself as you are. In Buddhism, it's ending craving. Where does craving come from? From judging. You judge, and once you've judged, then you've got something to crave. That person needs to be changed. That one needs to be improved. That needs to be put in jail. Too much craving comes after judging. If you didn't judge, just imagine that. No judging at all. Just respecting people for who they are. Allowing them to make mistakes. Respecting life for what it is, not judging it. Imagine what would happen. You soon find that life would start to just settle down, become really peaceful, when people felt they were respected and accepted and loved instead of judged. Then much of the reasons why people misbehave will also disappear. Isn't that the case for you? How many of you have been judged unfairly? What does it feel like? You know, after I did that bhikkhuni ordination years ago, just judged so ridiculously, unfairly. What are people doing that for? So instead of judging, we have this beautiful respect and accept. Not everyone sees what I see, thinks like I see, not my view. That's understood. But we respect one another. Different views, different ways of looking at life, different flowers in the garden, different dishes on the buffet of life. Take which one you like. Don't always have to be the same. So this is how you love life. You don't try and make every dish in the restaurant the same. So anyway, that's how to lower your expectation, be content with what is. You might always jump to judging by default. See if you can change the default mode by listening to more of these talks, getting more brainwashed. And it happens to people that they come to places like this more and more and more, and they find they're more at peace with life. What they mean more at peace with life, they don't judge so much. They're not so critical of themselves and others. And they get eventually to become at peace with themselves. You don't need to change yourself to become at peace with yourself. Otherwise, you'll never get there. Okay, any other questions before we finish off? I've already gone over time. Okay, great. So we now pay respects to Buddhist Dharma and Sangha, and for those of you who want to come tomorrow evening, 9:00 p.m. for the special surprise New Year's Eve party. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. There you go. Woohoo. There you go. Hello.